Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just uploading this now. I hope you're all having a nice holidays. I'm uploading this now as a special present for Sachin, and finally got around to it. This is the first half of the Gaius Julius Caesar ab urbe number 29. Sorry, it does go on for a while, so I'm doing about the first half of about 80 or so lines. Gaius Julius Caesar nobilissima, that first bit that we've got there, the most noble, superlative there, the most noble, born into the most noble family of the Julii. Agens, literally, when he was living until his 10 and 16th birthday. So when he was 16 years old, lost his father. Videator, he seemed, don't forget deponent verb videor, he seemed from his childhood, secutus esse, to have followed the popular faction. Remember, there was the Populares and the Optimates, the two different groups in the Republic. Eo magis, all the more because because Marius, rather, had married Julia. If you remember, Marius was Sulla's great enemy. He was the one of the first great sort of generals in Rome who actually was responsible for the army being made professional. So, because Marius had married Julia, the aunt of Caesar, ipse he himself took as his wife Cornelia, the daughter of Cinna, who was inimicissimus, who was most hateful to Sulla. Cum Sullar, when Sulla had ordered Caesar, sicut, just as he had many others, temporal clause, justicet, I'm going to make that red instead of grey, to divorce his wife, he, ille, as in change of subject, he refused. Spoliotus, having then lost all of his goods, literally having been deprived of his bonis, of his property, cum, when he was also being sought for murder, i.e. not as in not an accusation that he'd murdered anyone, as in they were seeking him to kill him, to murder him. So, cum, temporal clause, when he was being chased ad necem for the purpose of his murder, mutata veste, ablative absolute, having changed his clothing, at night, nocte, twab, he escaped, deponent verb, escaped from the city, although then he was suffering from this. And then we've got this. What was it called? The quartan fever, which I'd never heard of before. I don't know what that. I don't know what that is, but presumably it's something that's not very nice. When he was suffering from this fever, although he was then suffering from the fever, he was. He was being forced to change his hiding place each night. Although he was suffering from his fever, almost every night he was being forced to change his hiding places. Cogebator, imperfect passive. And finally, he, comprehensus est, he was arrested by a freedman of Sulla. So finally he was arrested by the freedman of Sulla. Having given him money, he scarcely persuaded him, i.e. the freedman of Sulla, in direct command, to let him go. Postumo, finally, he impetravit. Finally, he sought forgiveness, should we say? Finally he achieved forgiveness. I'm not sure what they would give you for that word particular there. I'm looking there. He accomplished, it says there. Finally, he got forgiveness through his relatives and his associates. Finally, he found forgiveness through his relatives and his associates who were going to Sulla and begging for forgiveness, particularly the females in his family, actually. The males in his family hadn't ever managed to achieve things, but lots of the women in his family, his aunts, etc., were quite powerful characters, his mother, many different people. Satis. It is generally agreed that Sulla, this is quite a famous story, that Sulla, look for an indirect statement, monuisse, infinitive, Sullam monuisse, accusative infinitive. It is generally agreed, however, that Sulla warned those who petebantor, who were seeking mercy for the young man, that he was going to be, and then here we've got the predictive dative, literally as a destruction. He was going to be a destruction to the sections of the nobility one day, to the, to the party of the nobility one day. Where am I? Nam. For there were many, still in direct statement, it's continuing past this semicolon, for there were many Mariuses in Caesar, for there were. So it's still, he had warned that there were many Mariuses in that Caesar. Prima stipendia. Stipendia prima then, as we go on. He performed his first military service. His first military service happened in Asia, where he was given the civic crown in expugnatione, where he won the civic crown in the Battle of Mytilene. Perfect passive verb there. Morto sulla, absolute perfect active participle. With sulla dead, he decided, se credere, he decided to go to Rhodes. I found this a bit difficult. In order, because I wasn't too, in order that at leisure he could give his attention to Apollonius Molo, the most well-known teacher, still the dative there, because given his attention to him, of gerund, of speaking. So, in order that per otium, that at his leisure he could purpose clause daret, give his attention to, literally work, study under Apollonius Molo, then tum the clarissimo, still dative Apollonio Moloni, the most famous teacher of speaking gerund. Huc dum transit. While he was crossing here, this is quite a famous story as well, he was captured by pirates, and he stayed there with them for prope quadraginta dies, and he stayed there with them for almost 40 days. Per omne, throughout all of that time, however, he carried himself, ita, in such a way, look for the result clause, that he was and here we got some more predictive data, I suppose, that he was equally a terror and a, what do you want to say, that he was equally a terror and a cause of respect. Of veneration sounds strange, and a cause of respect maybe, together to the pirates. Redemptus, perfect passive participle. Having been redeemed from there, having been saved from there by his friends, he contracts it, he got a fleet together, contracts it, he hired a fleet, and he literally affected the captured pirates with crucifixion, and he crucified the captured pirates. Literally, having captured the pirates, he crucified them. There's that perfect passive participle that we talked about, how to do that form if it's in the accusative. Having captured, rather than saying he crucified the having been captured pirates, you'd probably say having captured the pirates, he crucified them, which he had often threatened as a punishment inter amongst his jokes, amongst his joking and between his joking. Further, Deeper Spain offered him the quaestorship. So afterwards, further Spain offered him the quaestorship. Aedilis, as aedile, nominative there, as aedile, he, in addition to the comitium and the forum, also decorated. So, praetor, in addition, as well as the comitium and the forum, he also, or navit, decorated the Capitoline with colonnades. Venationes, he edited it. He, however, put on hunts and the most well-prepared games, superlative there, both with his colleague Marcus Bibulus and separatum, and separately. He, he poured out his inheritance on these matters. In these matters, he spent his inheritance, and he accrued, I suppose, so much debt that, again, result clause, that he himself said that he needed, or possessed me, that it was needed for him, that he needed 1,000 times as many sesterces in order to have nihil, in order to have nothing. We're carrying on going. Postea. Afterwards, he joined in an alliance. This is the first triumvirate. Afterwards, he made an alliance with Gnaeus Pompeius and Marcus Crassus, in order that nothing, negative purpose clause, should be carried out, should be done in the Republic, quod, which would displease either of the three. Then, having been made consul with Marcus Bibulus, he first instituted of all the consuls that the daily actions, both of the Senate and of the people, should be written down and recorded. Is that what I'm thinking? I think that's right. Sorry, I'm just checking through this then. Then, having elected, the daily acts for the Senate and the people be written down and published, I suppose you could say, yeah. He passed several laws on behalf of adequate leges. He passed several laws on behalf of Pompeius and of Crassus, per tulit, his allies, and he particularly accomplished that he himself take control of the province of Gaul. Bibulus, when he had in vain obstitiset, stood in the way of these laws, having been hidden away at home for the remaining time of the year, abstinuit, abstained, kept away from the curia, from the Senate house. Therefore, several people, cum, when they were signing their records, as a joke, added that it was not during the consulships of Caesar and Bibulus, but of Julius and of Caesar. And again, the implication being that, if you remember, there were two consuls, and so the idea is that actually Julius and Caesar are two separate people, as it says in the notes, which of course it's not. Next bit, 29e. Gaius Julius Caesar, Caesar per acto, having finished his consulship, redegit. So Caesar, after his consulship was finished, within 9 years brought Gaul under the power of the Roman people. So in 9 years, within which accusative, within 9 years brought Gaul under the power of the Roman people. He also attacked the Germans, and first of the Roman generals crossed into Britain. He himself composed commentaries of his rerum gestarum, literally of the things that he had done. Remember the Augustus's records of re gestae, his deeds, of his actions, which he wanted other people to use in history being written, in writing history. Their historia agreeing with the scribenda, so it is a gerundive. But, so said Cicero, remember Cicero being his enemy, so this is high praise. But as Cicero said, indeed, quidem, he put off good men, a scribendo, from writing. Gerund there. For nothing is sweeter, for there is nothing sweeter in history, for nihil est, there is nothing, dulcius, more sweet in history than his pure ablative of comparison, than the pure and lucid brevity, than the pure and wonderful brevity of his commentaries. Cum interea Crassus. Meanwhile, when Crassus was killed by the Parthians, when Crassus had been killed by the Parthians, and with Julia, the daughter of Caesar, dead, who was holding peace, was causing peace, who, as the wife, having married Pompeius, I'm changing that around, who, nupta Pompeo, having married Pompeius, was keeping peace between son-in-law and father-in-law. Immediately, aemulatio, jealousy broke out. Jam pridem. Now, for a long time, Pompey was suspect of the wealth of Caesar, as in the wealth of Caesar was suspicious to Pompey, and the dignitas gravis, and the serious dignitas of Pompey, the serious Pompeian dignity, was suspect to Caesar. Finally, Caesar, purpose clause, in order to protect himself, demanded from a law that had been brought from beforehand, from a law that had been carried out beforehand, that it be allowed. He demanded in direct command that he be allowed, licet, that it be allowed to be for him to seek another consulship absenti while absent. His enemies, with Pompeius approving, denied this, and they ordered Caesar to hand over his army and the province on a certain day. Incensus, incensed by this injury, he proceeded to the Rubicon, which was the border of the province, with his army. There, having delayed for a little, so the story goes, he said, even now we are possumus, we are able to go back, to retreat. Quod, because if we, conditional clause, because if we cross this river, everything will need to be settled, gerundive, because it agrees with the omnia, by arms. Posteremo, finally he shouted out, alia iacta est, the die is cast. Those fans of Asterix, if there are any of you, might recognise that phrase. Then, having led his army across the river, and having begun the civil war, he set out for Brundisium, where Pompeius had fled with a large part of the Senate. He having tried in vain to stop Pompeius crossing over into Epirus, he made a journey into Spain, where he conquered the strongest forces of Pompeius. Then, perfect active participle, having set forth into Epirus, he defeated Pompeius in the Battle of Pharsalus and pursued him, fleeing to Egypt. Here we go. He allowed... no, I'm sorry. Just bear with me here. Sorry, I'm just going as I'm turning over the page. So here, he... having set out here, he conquered Pompeius at the Battle of Pharsalus and followed him fleeing into Egypt. And then we've got, where are we? He tendebat, he conquered King Ptolemaeus. So vicit, sorry, I was looking at all these different bits and going between the different pages. Ptolemaeum there, accusative, so make it the object. So you need to find the main verb, vicit. So he conquered Ptolemaeus, King Ptolemaeus, who had ordered that Pompey be killed, and was tendebat and was preparing an ambush for Caesar. And he allowed or offered the kingdom, his kingdom, to Cleopatra and to her younger brother Pharnaces. And to her younger brother, full stop. Then we've got this Utebator. He he defeated Pharnaces, the son of Mithridates, who was the sort of terrible boogeyman of Rome. Mithridates was, rather than his son. He defeated Pharnaces, the son of Mithridates, who had used this opportunity, the opportunity of this time for ad rebellendum, for rebelling, Geron there. He conquered him tam Quito so quickly that afterwards, he afterwards recorded the speed of his victory. He celebrated that afterwards he noted the speed of his victory with these three words. Veni vidi vici, I came, I saw, I conquered. Then he, Dewikit, conquered Scipio and Juba, the king of Numidia, who had gathered together the remaining forces, the remaining troops of Pompeius in Africa. Finally, he defeated the sons of Pompeius in Spain. This battle was so tam ake, look for a result clause because you see the tam, was so vicious and so doubtful, so in doubt, that Caesar, result clause descenderet, climbed off his horse and, standing in front of his own men, that Caesar climbed down from his horse and standing before his own troops who were giving in, so that he climbed down and consistens and standing ante suos, in front of his own men, please don't forget that possessive pronoun, cedentes, who were giving in, he increperat, he cursed his own fortune because he had servaset, because he had he cursed his fortune because it had saved him, rather, because servaset, because his good fortune, had saved him from death. And he announced to his soldiers that he was not going to retrace his steps, that he was not going to retreat. Verecundia, by shame rather than by virtue, the battle line was restored. From there, he went back to Rome, where he quater triumphat, where he celebrated 4 triumphs. Whew, that was a big one. Very well done, everybody. I will do the second one tomorrow, hopefully.